You know that feeling when you're waiting for your Uber late at night? You're a little tipsy, maybe, or just exhausted from a long shift. You're checking the app, tracing the little blue car as it snakes its way towards you. You're thinking about your warm bed, about that last piece of pizza waiting for you in the fridge. You're not thinking about what could happen. You're not thinking that your ride home could be the last one you ever take. My name is Detective Alexi. I've seen things in this job that would make your skin crawl, things that would keep you awake at night, even if you weren't an Uber driver. And tonight, I'm going to tell you a story that will make you think twice before you ever book a ride after midnight. This is the story of Sarah. She was just 23 years old, a recent college grad with her whole life ahead of her. She was smart, she was funny, and she was loved by everyone who knew her. But none of that mattered to the man who picked her up that night. It was a Thursday night. Sarah had been out with her friends, celebrating a new job. She'd had a few drinks, nothing crazy, but enough that she knew she shouldn't drive. She did the responsible thing. She called an Uber. She saw his face on the app. He looked harmless enough, friendly even. He had a 4.9 star rating. She felt safe. She felt like she could trust him. But you can't always trust a face, and you can't always trust a rating. The first sign that something was wrong was the smell. As soon as Sarah got into the car, she was overwhelmed by the stench of cigarette smoke and something else, something chemical, something sinister. She mentioned it to the driver, Mark. He just laughed it off, said he'd been cleaning some spills. But Sarah didn't believe him. She felt a knot in her stomach, a creeping dread that she couldn't explain. And that dread was about to turn into full-blown terror. The ride should have taken 20 minutes, but after 30 minutes, they were nowhere near Sarah's apartment. Mark was driving in the opposite direction. He was heading towards the outskirts of the city, towards the abandoned warehouses and desolate fields. Sarah realized too late what was happening. She tried to yell, she tried to scream, but the driver just locked the doors. He told her to be quiet or he'd hurt her. And Sarah knew, looking at the cold, calculating look in his eyes, that he wasn't bluffing. She was trapped with a monster who had lured her into his car under the guise of safety. I received the call around 2 a.m., a missing person report. Sarah's friends were worried. She hadn't made it home, and she wasn't answering her phone. They knew something was wrong. They knew Sarah wouldn't just disappear. We started our investigation. We checked the Uber app logs. We saw Sarah's request, saw the driver who accepted it, saw the silver Honda Civic. But the app's GPS had cut out shortly after she got in the car. It was like she had vanished into thin air. But she hadn't vanished. She was still out there with him. And every minute that passed, the chances of finding her alive were dwindling. We needed a break. We needed a clue. And that clue came in the form of a witness, a gas station attendant who had seen Mark's silver Honda Civic driving erratically early that morning. The attendant noticed something else too. The driver was alone. Sarah was nowhere to be seen. This was our first break. We now knew where Mark had been. We now knew that Sarah was no longer in the car with him. But where was she? And what had he done to her? We needed more. We needed concrete evidence. And that's when we got another break. We found a surveillance video from a local diner. The video showed Mark's silver Honda Civic pulled up to the side of the road. It showed him getting out of the car and throwing something into the trash can. It showed him driving away. We rushed to the diner. We searched the trash can, and what we found sent shivers down my spine. Sarah's phone, her cracked, broken phone. It was covered in blood, and it wasn't just Sarah's blood. It was Mark's blood too. This was it. We had the evidence we needed. We had the smoking gun. We now knew that Mark had not only kidnapped Sarah, but he had also harmed her.
and we needed to find him before he could harm anyone else.
But finding Mark wasn't going to be easy. He knew we were looking for him. He was on the run. He was desperate. And a desperate man is a dangerous man. We put out an APB for Mark and his silver Honda Civic. We searched the city, the surrounding areas, anywhere we thought he might be hiding. We used every resource at our disposal. We were determined to catch him. We owed it to Sarah. And then, finally, a breakthrough. A hotel guest reported seeing a silver Honda Civic parked in the lot of a motel on the edge of town. They said the driver was acting suspiciously, looking over his shoulder, checking his surroundings. We knew this was our chance. We moved in. We surrounded the motel. We were ready for whatever Mark might throw at us. We burst into his room. He was there, alone. He looked up, his eyes wide with fear. He knew it was over. He knew he had nowhere to run. We had him. We had the man who had torn Sarah from her loved ones. We had the man who had stolen her future. But even as we cuffed him, even as we read him his rights, I couldn't help but feel a sense of emptiness. We had caught the killer, but we couldn't bring Sarah back. And then, the moment of truth. We searched Mark's car. We searched every inch of it, looking for any clue, any hint of where Sarah might be. And that's when we found it, in the trunk. A notebook, a handwritten notebook filled with the dark, disturbing thoughts of a madman. It detailed his plans for Sarah, his twisted fantasies, his complete lack of remorse. The notebook also contained a list of locations where he had taken Sarah, locations where he had planned to complete his work. We followed the leads. We went to each and every location. And finally, in a secluded spot, far from the city, far from any help, we found her. Sarah. She was gone. Her bright smile, her infectious laugh, her zest for life, it was all gone, replaced by a cold, lifeless reality. It was a sight that I will never forget, a sight that still haunts me to this day. We had found her, but it wasn't the happy ending we were hoping for. It was a tragedy, a senseless, heartbreaking tragedy that should never have happened. Mark was charged with first-degree murder, kidnapping, and sexual assault. He was convicted and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He will spend the rest of his life behind bars, a small price to pay for the devastation he caused. But Sarah, she will never get to live her life. She will never get to start her new job. She will never get to fall in love. She will never get to grow old with her family and friends. Her story ended that late night in an Uber. This story is a reminder of how quickly life can change, how a simple, everyday act can turn into a nightmare. It's a reminder to always trust your gut, to always be aware of your surroundings, to always take precautions. And it's a reminder to never forget Sarah. Let her story be a lesson to us all. Let her story inspire us to be more vigilant, more careful, and more compassionate toward others. Sarah was more than just a victim. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend. She was loved and she is missed. And even though she is gone, her memory lives on. It lives on in the hearts of those who loved her, and it lives on in the telling of this story. So, the next time you're waiting for your Uber late at night, take a minute to think of Sarah. Check the driver's picture, check their rating, share your location with a friend, and most importantly, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, don't get into the car. Your safety, your life is worth more than any convenience. This is Detective Alexi, reminding you to stay safe. And always remember, it's a wild, wild world out there.